Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. This is Bally's famous Space Invaders. Not the arcade game, the pinball machine. So, they made a ton of money with the arcade game. You know, Bally and Midway were the same company. And so they knew that they had to make a pinball machine. So they made a wide-body Space Invaders pinball machine. And it has some of the craziest artwork ever on a pinball machine. A gentleman named Paul brought us this, and you can see that the thing is in very nice shape. Here's the serial number while we're looking at it. Now it says, that's kind of weird. Okay, so so it's Electronic SI, Space Invaders. Electronic Space Invaders. And they're saying that to differentiate it between the electromechanical games that were earlier. Because some of the early Bally's, there were electromechanical EM versions, and there were solid state versions. So this is the solid state, electronic version. So Electronic Space Invaders 11780. So that's actually the serial number. Now we should be able to find it here on the head as well. Electronic Space Invaders 11780. 11,780. Now I don't know how many of these they made, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did make 11,000 of them. Some of the more desirable games, they made a bunch. 8-ball they made 20,000 of. That was the record at the time. It's a very cool game. So he brought it to us and dropped it off with Joe. Now, I don't know what's wrong with it. So I come in to work on it, and I tell Joey, Joe, you've got to make me a list, right? So I leave the pad of paper. He tells me, hey, I left you a note in the back, everything the guy said, right? So like usual, right? So here's the notepad. He didn't write a freaking thing down. He's got one of his shirts sitting here, like that's a joke or something. It's broke, ha ha ha, right? Nothing. Look at all this paper we've got. He could have wrote me like an entire book. All he had to do was ask the guy, hey, what's wrong with it? And the guy could have told him, oh, the left flipper's not quite right. And then he'd write it down, and then I'd know to look at that, you know? But, you know, he don't care, because he's not the one messing with the pinball machine, so he don't write anything down. So he told me that he left me a note, but that was a lie. Oh, come on! Same old crap every game. Well, once again, we're left to our own devices. We're just going to have to figure out what's wrong with it. I got the keys. This playfield is one of the craziest artwork playfields ever designed by any manufacturer ever. They had some dude do all the art, and he just straight up ripped off Aliens. Now, I know some people disagree with that. There's nothing to disagree with, folks. Look at this. If that ain't the character from Alien that had came out just right around that time, I don't know what is. Oh yeah, here you go. Come on now. Come on, people. You're ripping them. Come on now. That's not a space. That's it. People. Come on now. That's not a Space Invader. That's an alien. Come on now. You're gonna have to pay him some money. You can't get away with this. Come on now. All right. So the back glass in this is considered one of the greatest freaking back glasses ever. It just looks awesome, and it has this thing where the lights chase around the outside, just like in Xenon, or very similar to in Xenon. So let's look inside the back box and see what kind of shape everything is in. Let's see if the guts of it are as nice as well, if I can get the key to work. Let's see if the guts of it are as nice as the outside, because it certainly looks good. That lock, I hate these double keyed ones like this. What in the world? Maybe this is the wrong set of keys. Oh, wait a minute. It might be going in. Boy, he's in good hands with me, isn't he? Brings it to me to be his tech, and I can't even get the key in the hole. That one ain't it. Let's try this one. Maybe if I mess with this one for quite a while. Okay. The key has turned. Ooh. All right. You want to see something beautiful? So an original Space Invaders back glass in almost mint condition. Beautiful shape. There is a scratch there. But that's it. And that's what proves the point, right? That proves the rule. If I say this thing... Well, no, that's the wrong use of that phrase. Look, this thing's perfect. And then if you say there's a scratch over there, I say, yeah, see, that's all you can find. There's one little scratch, right? It also has LED displays. Ooh. Me likey. Okay, let's open this sucker up. It is also just clean as crap. This thing has been meticulously cleaned up. Now, typically on these back boxes, you have burn marks. You can kind of tell how long the thing has been on by the burn marks. So if you look above the bulb, that is not a shadow. That's actually soot from the heat from the lamp. Now, see, under it, that's a shadow. But above it, that's not a shadow. That's the heat from the lamps. But there's not much on this one. So it's either been repainted or it's just in exceptional condition. So let's see what's inside the tomb. LED displays look really good. The power supply on this one's going to be down in the bottom. And then the juice comes up and runs up here to this solenoid driver board, which is brand new. Uh-huh. Well, I don't know what to do with this. I don't have alkaline damage everywhere to fix on the MPU or anything. So this is a very cool, brand new solenoid driver board. The ultimate solenoid driver board. Made by Alltech. If it says Alltech, you are in good hands with Alltech. And this is not a comment on any other company that makes boards, but Alltech makes great boards, right? You buy one of theirs, you just got something nice. And they stand behind them 100%. To the point you can email them and ask them weird questions. Like, hey, this cap right here, what's it supposed to be doing? If you got a problem, and they'll explain it to you and stuff. I mean, their service on this is off the charts. And then if you need anything repaired, they can repair them as well. This is the auxiliary lamp driver board. This is probably used to run the lights that string around the outside of the back glass. Okay, here's the soundboard. It's the original. I wonder if our buddy GTO makes a Space Invaders soundboard. I'm not sure. But he likes to play around with making replacement Bally soundboards for sure. So he very well may have a replacement Space Invaders one. Here is the lamp driver board. It is also brand new. So you would think with all of these, if there's a problem, I would assume, now this is just me assuming, and you know what that means, I would assume that the problems would be connector related if there's a problem. And here is the MPU, an Alltech MPU. All looks good. Now let's zoom in on that connector over there and see if I can tell by just looking at it if it has been repinned. I don't think it has. See how gray all of the pins look? So I bet those aren't new. So that might be our problem, if there's a problem. It's here in the shop, so I assume there's a problem. But all the boards are new, with the exception of the soundboard. So new displays, new lamp boards, 2 of them, new solenoid driver board, and new MPU. Wow. All of this looks excellent. It looks like somebody either really took care of this thing or they've completely, and I would consider this a restoration. I mean, they took it to all the way to the top. Okay, so I'm going to get this big old sheet of glass out of here so we can look under the playfield, get a look at the power supply. And whenever we get these in, I like to just look them over to make sure nothing has bounced around while they were being moved. You know, you might have had a loose bolt in there or something that landed on the top of the power supply and you fire that thing up and it fries crap. So I like looking them over before I before I turn them on. And plus, in the video, I think people enjoy taking a little walk around the machine whenever we get it in. So yeah, let's look under the playfield. So with the glass off, if you get a good look at the playfield, you can see why it's in such nice shape. It has actually got Mylar on it, on much of the playfield, so that has saved all of the artwork. Stuff like here in the middle where these inserts are, that would all be gone on most Space Invaders. But it's all completely intact on this one. So the Mylar saved it, and they have cleaned the Mylar up and it looks pretty good, so very cool. But there's not even any wear. I mean, usually, like in this area, you would have a bunch of wear because the ball lands back there. Yeah, nothing. Very, very clean looking game. Look at this thing of beauty here. It just keeps going. This is the super wide body. 4 flippers, 2 of the coils have been replaced for sure. Maybe that one on the right there as well. Maybe all 4 of them. Yeah, all 4 of them, because that's not the original Bally coil. And neither is that. That one has gotten a little... something's going on with that one. Maybe it got hot. Okay, patent pending. They haven't been approved yet. But they're going to be. And then look, they have 3 drops over here, but they used a 4-drop assembly. They just didn't use one of the targets. Very cool. That all looks very clean. I don't see any issues at all. This is interesting too. Even though it's wide body, it uses the standard size receiver. Whole box of goodies here. Look, they've been repinning and stuff, I think. Or intended to, at least. So we got that. Even the shooter, I believe they have. That spring looks like a replacement. Someone has meticulously went through this thing. Manuals, and there's the cover for the rectifier board. So maybe our problem is here on the rectifier board, because it's original. But it may have been worked as well. Ooh, I see one thing I don't like. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I see. So here's the main connector. You can see it's had some issues. And this is very common. You just get a lot of heat going through that thing. So that needs to be repinned. So he said that it was working and then it just stopped working, which, you know, very well could be a power supply thing. Yeah, look, we got a wire soldered to the board too. So we'll have to fix all this stuff. That's interesting. Is that one blown? Interesting. On the original power supply, that last fuse is the cabinet fuse. So if the cabinet fuse is blown, that's not typical. Usually that means you had some kind of serious something or the other go on. So let's check our varistor. It's fine. So if if the house gets hit by lightning, it'll come down this line and it'll blow up that varistor. That's the reason it's there, to catch voltage spikes. But it might also blow a fuse or something. But that's the main fuse, I believe. All right, so we see what our problem is. It's going to be something on this power supply. It's the only thing in the game that doesn't look really nice. But just for the sake of let's have a good time, we're going to plug it up and just see what it does. I don't think it's going to do anything, because if I'm right that one fuse is the main fuse, it won't even light up. But wow, what a sharp looking game. What a cool cool theme. And here's one in excellent condition. Okay, so we're very carefully going to, I'm going to lay the playfield back down. We're not going to touch any of that. And then we're just going to plug it up, and so that we can see it from the customer's point of view, what they're seeing whenever they were trying to plug it up. But I believe this customer knows how to work on these, because he's obviously got this thing in very nice shape. All right, let's see if we get anything when we turn on the power switch. Wow, completely dead. You never see that, a completely dead machine. I don't know why it would have blown the main fuse on the power board. That's an interesting one. Out of all of these that I've had, I've only had 2 or 3 with the main fuse blown. And the only reason that I'm even mentioning this is because just the way the schematics are. I'll show you on the schematics. Let's pull out his schematics and we'll look at those since they're so nice, and I'll show you why that's a strange thing to have blow. This is interesting. Inside the pack of paperwork it says no solder, solderless Ballystern rectifier module. So that's the main board. So he was going, it looks like, to replace the main board as well, the power supply board, the rectifier board, but didn't. So maybe that's inside of the coin box. I need to go back and look. Important note, you likely have an 8-pin J1 plug. However, J1 on the board has 9 pins for games Future Spot, Kiss, and Space Invaders only. Okay, so yeah, so I don't know about a solderless rectifier module, but I can certainly put in a one that needs solder. I can do it. Let me go see if it's in the cabinet. Maybe that was an update that he wanted to make but didn't have the ability to. All right, so I did find it. This is a solderless rectifier board. So basically you cut the old rectifier board loose, and then you put all of the wires that are soldered to the old board in these lugs. But nothing wrong with this board, but I think I'd rather have the original one. So I called the customer and asked him, and he said that repinning the original one was fine with him, and we could save this, and he may put it in something else. So I think we're going to go that way. We've got this connector kit here that he bought as well, that we'll all need. So we'll put that on the original board. And I wanted to show you in the schematics what I was talking about. It's kind of strange to blow that fuse. He's saying he thinks it might be the flipper doing it, but here's the issue with that. It could just be, let me find, so the flippers run off of the solenoid line, right? Solenoid power, which is 43 volts. So if you have a short on that line, like the flipper, it should blow this fuse, F4, right? But it's not doing that. It's blowing this fuse, which is way back on this side of the transformer. So that fuse is blown when it should be this one. It could be that this one's the wrong amperage. So if this was like a 10, well, what would it take? 43 volts, and this is 120. If this was a 10, you might blow that one instead, maybe. So there's something like that going on. The intention of this fuse, and this is the lines coming in from the wall, is if you have a short in one of these wires, I guess if you have a short in one of these, it may blow the breaker in your house. But these are like if the transformer's shorted or something, and if that transformer is shorted, you're in big trouble, because them things are expensive, hard to find. That's the worst thing that could possibly be wrong with the machine. But it's probably something on the solenoid line, and usually whenever you have a fuse blowing, it is this solenoid fuse. So we'll figure it all out. But yeah, so I think I need to pull out the power supply and let's get a better look at it. So I have removed the power supply from the bottom of the game, You can take these screws out and just take the whole board off. Okay, now the customer, the reason he didn't put that new power supply in, even though it's a solderless power supply, is because the connectors were soldered in too. So it was a kind of big job. He would have had to take everything loose. One of the wires coming down was soldered to this test point, but not very well. So we'll figure out what that one even was. That very well could have been causing some problems. As a matter of fact, let's figure that out right now. Test point 3. Let's figure out what that is. Holy crap. So test point 3 is the regulator input. So it's the 11.9 volts that goes up and gets turned into 5. So that's like the main 5-volt line for the entire game. I'm surprised the thing reliably booted. So hopefully that'll get it more reliable if we fix it. So next up was these connectors on the very end down here. The last two were soldered in. There was a white one and a blue one. Crazy. All right, so pin 1 and pin 2. Let's see what those were. All right, so that was the return for the general illumination. So it's AC and it's kind of high amperage because there's a whole bunch of light bulbs. So that makes sense. As typical, that always burns up on these. This is the second generation of their board. The earlier ones you may have seen a lot that went on pretty much every of the early solid state games, 8-ball, Matahari, etc. Looked very similar to this, but this piece mounted up in the back of the cabinet, and it didn't have the top part of this board. So instead it had 1, 2, 3 bridge rectifiers, and then the test points all along the top. This part wasn't missing. So at some point they removed that one bridge, which is the computer controlled lamps, and they replaced it with these two. I'm not even sure what they call those. Can we see a part number? It's a Vero R712E. Right, so it's just a slightly different design of the board. The earlier ones, I guess they felt like that wasn't beefy enough to control all of the lamps that are actually on something like a Space Invaders that just has a ton more lamps on it. So this is kind of the upgraded thing. So what are we going to do? I'm going to pop this loose, and we're going to replace all these connectors with the connector kit and get those nice and clean. And then I'm going to replace all of the pins in the connectors that plug into these to get a nice clean connection. And that should fix most of it. Usually I take these and I reflow the connectors, but since he's got the brand new ones there and these are so toasty, it's getting all new, baby. So let's see if we can tell how bad the fuses are just by zooming in on them. Yeah, the one with the classic car fuse, isn't it? That's the one with the little rippled thing in it. So that one's not blown yet. I wonder if it's the right one. Okay, that one looks decent. Might be the wrong size. This one, I think, is still intact. This one's still intact. This one's still intact. But our main fuse is blown, which would explain why nothing will turn on. Okay, so yeah, let me start swapping the connectors, and then we'll test these bridge rectifiers and see if we can test these things. Alright, so I took this loose, and I took a wire brush and cleaned off the pins a little bit, just so you could see the kind of condition that they're in. I'm going to add some solder to each one so that I can remove the solder easily to replace the entire connector. Okay, so look at that. So obviously those first 3 there, we're just barely hanging on. So if you have a problem where something's working and then it stops or it resets, you can imagine how the electricity that wants to travel through here might not be able to travel through it all that well. That's a like great example of a broken cold solder joint. You can also see that little piece of metal there? That came off my brush, so you got to be careful when you do that just to make sure that it's cleaned up whenever you get ready to put it all back together. Those look okay, but then when we get to this end of the connector, that last one's messed up as well. And then when you get over to the next connector, the first one's kind of rough. And on this one, those two look like they may be alright, but this one here looks like maybe it's broken loose. And then on the next connector, the first two are really bad. And then here, this entire end is screwed up. Look at all that. No way those are passing electricity like they should. That's not even the end of the connector, that's like the middle. And then here's the end on this side. You can see that bottom one there is the worst of all the times. So whatever that was handling, it wasn't handling much. So I'm gonna add a little bit of solder to all of those to reflow the old solder, and then I'm gonna remove the new and the old solder and put the new pins in. Okay, folks, I think I figured it out. So I replaced the connectors, and so then I'm looking, and the two bridge rectifiers are fine. These two Vero, what are they calling these? Let's see what it says they are in here. Here we go. RP1 and RP2. What are they calling RP1 and RP2? But anyway, those seem to test fine as well. But here's the, that one fuse was all that was blown. The solder was horrible on it. Oh, I was going to show you on this. This is the fuse that's blown. 5 amp slow blow as compared to 5 amp normal blow. So it says that should be a 5 amp slow blow. Now if you look, it actually says 3 amp on the power supply. But you know, you want to go by the schematics, not the actual power supply. So that should be a 5 amp slow blow. So this was in it. This is a 5 amp. But just looking at it, I don't think that's a slow blow. You can't really necessarily tell by looking at it, but see how thin that line is in there? That's going to blow. That's going to be like a normal blow or a quick blow. But it is a 5 amp. Maybe I'm wrong. 3AG. Actually that is slow blow, isn't it? Or is that just the size? Let me Google that real quick. 3AG, does that, I mean it's on everything, but does that denote that it's slow blow? It looks like a normal blow. That has blown. Alright, so yeah, 3AG just means 3 automotive glass fuse. It's the cartridge size here. So it has nothing to do with its fast blow or slow blow. But that, I don't think that's a slow blow. So the reason you need a slow blow is, and again, I'm going to say this in layman's terms, I didn't go to school for any of this. The fast blow is a little thin, tiny thing. If there's the slightest chance of a problem, bam, it blows that fuse immediately. Right? If there's any kind of hiccup at all in the power, it blows that fuse. A slow blow is a nervous fuse. So a slow blow goes, oh my God, there's a short what? Maybe I should think about killing my... Oh no, everything's cool. A fast acting fuse goes, oh hell no, shut it down, turn it off, it's all got to go, turn it down. So I think the problem is they had a fast blow fuse in there when it specifically calls for a slow blow. And it specifically calls for a slow blow here. So a slow blow, it can deal with a little bit of crap without blowing the fuse. So you might get a little spike in the voltage and something doesn't act quite right and it draws a little more amperage for a split second. A fast blow fuse, as soon as something happens, immediately it blows. So you hit 2 flippers at one time. This game has 4 flippers on it. At least it might have 5. You hit 2 flippers at one time, all these coils come in, it pulls a little more amperage. A fast blow fuse would blow immediately, a slow blow fuse wouldn't. And to back that up, it looks like where the solenoid fuse is, they have a slow blow installed. So it could be as easy as they reverse the two. But I'm going to leave a slow blow there as well, even though in the manual it says normal blow. I've always put a slow blow in it for the same reason. You're pulling in coils and crap. I leave a slow blow in there. So we'll put a slow blow in there and then watch it. And we'll plug it up and check the voltages before we plug anything else in. I talked with the customer. He said that they had flipper problems. And it looks like we saw earlier, one of the flippers looks like the cover's messing up or something. Okay, folks, so I put it back in and I'm working through the connectors. The first connector that it needs is this one. This is the one from the cabinet that brings the AC up. So I started repinning it, and after I got through it, I started noticing that someone's already repinned it. So it has trifuricon connectors on it, which they must have done whenever the last time they worked on it. So it looks like they did some of the work, but they didn't do that main connector, obviously. And they had soldered wires to the board and all that, so maybe it was worked on at 2 different times. I don't know. But this connector is good now. So we're going to put it on and then test the voltages on the test points and see if we're in good shape like I think we are. And that'll also allow us to turn it on and see if the fuse blows. You can kind of tell too that it's been worked on because the wiring's a little bit short. It makes it all the way across there to it, but it was probably a little longer originally, and they cut the connector off to replace the connections, which shortened it up a little bit, but it'll be just fine like that. Worst case scenario, you could take that loose back there and it would let it all hang down a little bit, but I think it'll be fine like it is. This stuff on the playfield doesn't hang down enough that it would actually hit it or anything. You can see where the bottom of the playfield is, and there's a good 7-8 inches below it to the wiring, and everything up here is in the top 4 inches or so, so it'll be fine. Okay, so I've got that plugged in, so we're going to turn it on and see if the fuse blows. We're on right now. Literally looking for the smoke test. It's not blowing the fuse. Everything looks good. No fuses blowing. Coin door lights are on. So she's powered up. Of course, nothing on the playfield or the back box is on because nothing's plugged in. Okay, so now that we've got the power running to the power supply, we can check at those test point voltages and see if everything seems to be within spec. Alright, so we're going to check the voltages. DC voltage, test point 1, 8 volts. Test point 2, 191 volts, that's the displays. Test point 3, 14.3 volts, that's the unregulated 12 volts that runs up and gets turned into 5 by the solenoid board. Test point 5, 46 volts, that's the 43 volt solenoid power. And then if we go over to AC, test point 4, 7.34 volts, that's the voltage that is supposed to be 6.3, which runs the lamps, like the general illumination. All of those are a little high. That's because the line voltage coming in is higher than it used to be. So here in our shop, the line voltage is like 125 volts. This was designed for 115. So you can change the setting on it to make it 120. We do that sometimes, but I'm not going to on this one because this is going to sound crazy, but you can, whatever. It was working fine at the guy's house, and he lives in Virginia. He doesn't live here. So I don't want to screw with it. The line voltage in Virginia is probably higher too, but I don't know that for certain. And it was working fine the way it was. So we're just going to leave it running high here in our shop. And if it's too high in Virginia, he can move a wire on the transformer and fix it. But I don't think it's necessarily super important. A lot of times, if we're doing them here local and I'm selling it local, well, it's the exact same power company. It's probably 125 at their house too. But well, who knows in Virginia? Not that Virginia is more backwards than here. I'm just saying I don't like that the local power company's too high, but it is what it is. So that it seems like everything's fine. So I'm going to repin the other connectors, and we'll plug them in one at a time and see what we get. With the second connector plugged in, the playfield now has power. No fuses blowing yet. Absolutely gorgeous game. Looks like all of the lamps work. Or most of them. I see a couple that are out. Okay, so now I need to do that big one that runs the back box. So here's what's left of the connector. They had 3 wires soldered on. It's kind of amazing that as much was working as was working. So usually, though, the main problem that you have whenever this is going on is lamps. Now, the customer did say that like the chase lamps in the back box weren't working right. And I noticed that he had a new board in there. So they should be working right, but that could be a connector problem on that board, or it could be, they may be doing some weird stuff like running that with the GI lamps or something, I don't know. But we'll check into that if we can get the thing to boot. So we're going to see now if she will boot up. All right, so it has a beautiful brand new connector on it. Look at that, awesome. And that's a Molex connector. On those, I have the ones that are actually made by Molex. I have the little keying plug, so I was able to put one of those in there so you can't plug it in backwards. I haven't screwed that down yet, just in case we still got to take it back out in case there's a problem. But I think we're ready to test it. What do you think? So what I'll do is I'll keep it on that for just a second just to make sure no fuses blow. And then if it seems like it's about to boot up, I'll come up and show you the top of it. Here we go. Sounded right. Oh yeah. Yeah, the chase lights are working. Maybe it was a problem with the with one of those connectors. What a freaking beautiful pinball machine. Holy crap. They don't make nothing this nice anymore. I don't give a damn. You can name whatever modern Stern, Jersey Jack, or spooky game. None of them look like this. This looks amazing. Just a completely beautiful classic Bally. I'm looking at all the run lights, seeing if any of them are out. They are not. Every freaking one of them working. Wow. That infinity mirror thing is one of the coolest inventions ever. I've also got to say, those are LED displays, and you cannot tell. I mean, they look exactly like the plasma ones. I mean, I don't even know if I would be able to, staring at them, to tell it to. I mean, I guess I could tell because I can see the little LED blocks in there. But as far as the color and the temperature and all of that, they're perfect. They look exactly like the plasmas. That is impressive. I didn't know that they made them that look that close. But yeah. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Let's play it a little bit. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start it, but I'm not going to hit the flippers because the flippers I know there's some flipper problems. So we're going to have to do another video where we play all the way through it and we mess with the flippers. But I'll start it. We'll roll the ball around just for a second, just so you can see, hear some of the sounds as it's doing its thing. All right, so I'll just start it and we'll knock the ball around a little bit, but I'm not going to hit the flippers because there's I think that's what's blowing the fuse. So we're going to have to mess with that on another video. Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. Wow, the back glass, he's doing the thing too. Fantastic. I'm dead serious. None of the new ones are this cool. Period. I don't care. Oh no, it flipped the flippers. Did it blow a fuse? I might have screwed up my whole plan there. I didn't flip them. It did it. Maybe I did. Maybe I flipped it. I didn't mean to flip it if I did. Nice little spinner. All right, it's going to be a great game. Very cool. It's. I like how it's not. What's the word for it? When it's the same on both sides. I know you're all yelling it right now. So this side's a little different than that side. It's not a mirror. What's the word? We got to get our pop bumpers to do something. Come on now. Come on, pop bumper. Let's see if this kicker works. There we go. That kicker's fine. All right, here we go. Yeah! Beat up the banks! What a cool game. Alright, so there you go, folks. It's going to be awesome. We're going to play it full through on the next video, but we've got to work on the flippers to make sure that they are not shorting everything out in the game every time you hit the button. So we'll do that on the next one. There's probably some other little minor stuff that needs to be done, and but I want to make sure that I can record a whole bunch of me playing the game just so everybody knows what Space Invaders is like. So we'll see you on the next video. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out my brother Donnie. His channel is down below. If you don't know about my brother, we do arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes on this channel. My brother Donnie does old buildings, old vehicles. Right now we're in the middle of rehabbing an old mobile home. It's pretty fun. So he and I'm over there with him on that channel a lot. Go check it out if you haven't already. But we will see you back here in a couple days with the next installment on this Space Invaders. I don't think it needs a lot because all the boards are new, but I just want to make sure that it's A-OK before we call the customer. And I already noticed some problems wrong with the flippers, and he mentioned that he wants us to mess around with the flippers. So we'll do that on the next video. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.